Are there filters or frameworks with which you evaluate your decision-making processes when it comes to investments? Welcome to Streams. On this edition of Streams, I'll be sharing with you 3 frameworks with which you can evaluate your decision-making processes when it comes to investments. The 3 frameworks runs as best case scenario, likely case scenario, and worst case scenario. When you look at a best case scenario of any situation, you are very much likely to overestimate, take for example, your return on investment. You are likely going to overestimate the outcomes you're going to have in any particular business. You are going to overestimate the delivery process or the work that people that are involved will put to it. That is the nature of man. You want to be positive. You want to be robust in its outlook. But the reality is always different. Very many times we wish our best case scenario to come to pass in every situation in our investment. And optimism is not the same thing as making sound judgment when it comes to business and investment. So when you look at a best case scenario in business, which is what you would prefer to happen, then you move to what we call the likely case scenario. The likely case scenario will track with what is the trend, what is the available data, what are the experiences of other people in that particular business. Say, for example, if you want to invest in a sector of the business, what are the available data? Everybody have a fool's paradise or an utopian expectation of what they will achieve, but a likely case scenario is what tracks with reality, what is sensible that may eventually happen when you have weighed all the scenarios of that situation. And on the third spectrum is what we call the worst case scenario of any situation. That is the scenario that nobody wants or prepares for very many times, because people could say things like, oh, I don't want to be pessimistic. I don't expect that to happen. I don't think that will ever happen. Oh, I'm expecting. But the reality of business is that you need to prepare for all eventualities for you to be robust and be sound in your decision-making processes. For a sound business person who wants to invest in anything, you need to look at the worst-case scenario as your backstop to look at, if the worst-case scenario of my decision were to happen, can I survive? Can I deal with the consequence of the worst-case scenario? Take, for example, if you invest in property as a case study, and you look at what will be the return in terms of rental income, or if you flip, for example, what will be the duration to do the repairs and to flip the property. But if your best case scenario is like 3 months or 4 months, budget for 6 months, just like we are in a lockdown now. What normally takes like 2 months to accomplish is taking like 6 months or 10 months to accomplish. Will your own business decision or investment drive survive under that worst case scenario? If you are thinking you are going to get your money on time from that investment, what if you lose the money? What if you get half of what you were expecting? What if the payment is delayed? So when you have weighed the worst case scenario of your investment or decision, and you are sure you can survive under the worst case scenario, that's when you can make that investment or decision. You cannot base your investment decision on the best case scenario. Likely case scenario might help you to prepare for certain eventualities, but you need to have safeguards for worst case scenario of that business or investment decision. If for any reason you cannot survive a worst case scenario, I'll say to you, you need to hold it back. What are the safeguards you are putting in place? You need to look at the risk factor of a worst case scenario. Is it a risk that you can transfer? Is it a risk that you can mitigate? Or is it a risk that you can absorb? If you can absorb it, or you can transfer it, or you can mitigate it. But if there are no measures in place for you to deal with a worst case scenario, don't pull the trigger of that investment yet. This is very critical because as things are difficult or challenging in the parts of the world because of the pandemic and the lockdown, you need to put yourself in a worst case scenario assessment of your business decision. The people who can from time to time prepare for worst case scenario are the people that will thrive. You may achieve your likely case scenario, or you may achieve your best case scenario even, that will even blow your mind. But from a prudent point of view, as a business owner or as an entrepreneur, you must always prepare for the worst case scenario. We have the temptation of always overestimating what we will get or what we will achieve. But the worst case scenario puts you in a better stead because you have contingency plan. You must prepare for all eventualities. That's what makes you a rounded and a complete business person. So evaluate your decisions on these three frameworks. Look at best case scenario, which is what you wish to happen. Look at likely case scenario, and look at the worst case scenario. And if your business model or investment decision can survive all the worst case scenarios, then I would advise that you should go ahead. So if this is useful for you as a business person or as an entrepreneur, share with people so that they are not just blindly jumping to a decision because a salesperson has sold them a dummy of a fantasy island. You need to be realistic and you need to be prudent. So share with your loved ones, and I hope to see you on the next episode of Streams. But don't forget, smash the subscribe button, and I'll see you. Bye for now.